Today's webinar is informational. It is to give you as much information as possible about the new ETOE exam and the CoreCHI-P Credential or CoreCHI Performance Credential. Let's start with the first question or a series of questions that address the naming convention. So what's in a name? What do different acronyms behind our credentials and exams mean? Well, let's start with the definitions. We're interpreters, we're all about words. Credential versus exam. Credential is a bigger concept. Credential confirms that you met the eligibility requirements, such as age, education, healthcare interpreter training, and language proficiency. Credential confirms that you passed one or two certification exams. And credential is valid for a limited number of years, and it includes renewal requirements. When we talk about exam, in CCHI's programs, exam sometimes can have the same name as the credential, but sometimes that name may be different. An exam must be taken within a specific time period. It follows specific retake policy, and each exam has slightly different retake policy. And if a credential includes two exams, then after passing the first exam, you cannot have that credential. You have to take both exams to receive a credential. Exam is a component of the credential. When we talk about CCHI certifications, CCHI credentials, or CCHI certification credentials, as you can see, all these three words I use as synonyms. We talk about two tiers. The CoreCHI is the CoreCHI certification of a knowledge tier, available to interpreters of most languages. And then there are two credentials on the performance tier, CoreCHI Performance or CoreCHI-P, and CHI Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish. As we move forward in our development of the programs, of the certifications, we plan in 2025 to start phasing out the CoreCHI credential. We'll still keep the exam, but the credential will be phased out in the format that it exists today. So let me now go and compare these three credentials and see where they are similar and where they're different. So you can see at the top here, there are three credentials, and we'll start with the questions: which exams do you need to take to earn these credentials? For the CoreCHI credential, you only have one exam, and the name is the same, CoreCHI exam. For the CoreCHI Performance Credential, which is new, which we're just launching this year, this month, you have to take two exams: CoreCHI exam, which will test your knowledge, and a monolingual performance exam, which is called ETOE. ETOE is an acronym standing for English to English, reflecting how we are delivering it in a monolingual format. And then the CHI credentials, Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish, are bilingual credentials, and they include also two exams: knowledge CoreCHI exam and bilingual performance CHI exam. So that's about like what do they consist of, these three credentials. Now, who can get these credentials? CoreCHI, let's start with the first one, which has only one exam. All interpreters except Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish. These three languages cannot get the CoreCHI credential. They have to jump to the CHI Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish credential. Why? Because we believe that ultimately we can test and assess the preparedness and qualifications of an interpreter only when we can assess both knowledge and performance. And we have three exams for performance exams. That's why you have to go to this credential. Now, the new credential also has a performance component, and that's why it's available to interpreters of any language. But there is a difference, right? Monolingual versus bilingual. And that's why interpreters of Arabic, Mandarin, or Spanish can earn CoreCHI Performance Credential, but only after they get the CHI Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish credentials. In other words, if you're a CHI interpreter right now, already certified, yes, you could get CoreCHI Performance. And I'll talk about why you may want to do that, but why you don't necessarily need to do that. What do you see on the certificates for these credentials? The CoreCHI certificates, you don't have any language listed. You just say that you received the CoreCHI certification verifying your knowledge about the healthcare profession and meeting our eligibility requirements. For the both CoreCHI Performance and CHI certifications, you receive the language listed on the certificate. Now, let's talk about exams. So there are 3 exams: CoreCHI, ETOE, and CHI. That's how the word ETOE comes in, and I understand it may be confusing. Why is it not called CoreCHI-P? Well, the reason is we started developing it through the testing study. When we developed the blueprint for the current ETOE exam, we want to connect it to that study that we conducted in 2020, because that study gave us the scientific foundation for this new exam, and we want to make sure that we show continuity between the study and this new certification exam. But the credential has a different name. As far as when you can take this exam, CoreCHI exam, you must take within 6 months, otherwise you'll have to pay again. ETOE and CHI exams, you have 12 months after the date of passing CoreCHI exam. If you don't do it within 12 months, you'll have to retake the CoreCHI exam before you can take these 2 exams. Can the exams be taken online? The answer is yes, only for the knowledge exam, because it's a multiple choice exam that could be delivered online or at testing centers. Both ETOE and CHI exams are audio capture or audio output exams, and for security and technological reasons, they cannot be administered online in a manner that would mean accreditation requirements for CCHI. How long is the exam? CoreCHI exam, you have 2 hours, but for both performance exams, you have 1 hour to complete them. And when do you get the scores for these exams? For the CoreCHI exam, scores are available within 48 hours. They're emailed to you, but right there on the testing center, or after you complete the exam online, you will see if you passed or failed. You just don't know with what score. As far as the scores for performance exams, because they are produced by human raters and they take time to rate their exams, you receive your scores within 6 to 8 weeks after the last day of the testing window. Since we're talking about the names, your name on your current valid ID must match the name on the email that is called notice to schedule that you will receive, because if it doesn't match, you will not be admitted to the test center and you will not be allowed to test. And since some of you earned the CoreCHI credential several years ago, things have changed, your names have changed. Make sure that you email us at apply@cchicertification.org as soon as possible, but definitely at least 5 business days before your scheduled testing day. That applies to any exam. What credentials are available for sign language or ASL interpreters? We recognize that sign language is very different than a spoken language because of the nature of how these are produced. And we view CCHI credentials as specialty or add-on credentials for ASL interpreters. Currently, ASL interpreters could take either CoreCHI certification path or CoreCHI-P certification path. The difference is eligibility requirements. To become a CoreCHI certificant, you need to prove your language proficiency in a broad way. And currently, we accept a variety of these evidences or proofs, like ASL-specific certification, or licensure from a state that requires licensure of ASL interpreters, bachelor's degree in ASL interpreting. In May, new requirements will go in effect. And I don't know right now what these requirements will be, but at that time, moving forward, all candidates who will start applying in May will have to meet those requirements for ASL and for all other languages for that matter. As far as the CoreCHI performance path, that's a performance certification. When we were creating it, our main goal was to bridge the gap that existed for spoken languages, that Arabic, Spanish, and Mandarin had a performance exam, and all other languages did not have a performance exam. However, during the development of the CoreCHI-P Credential and the ETOE exam, we did utilize subject matter experts who were sign language interpreters. So this exam is structured the way that it is applicable to both. But because ASL interpreters have already performance certification, non-specialized, not in medical, but a performance to demonstrate that you can actually interpret from and into ASL, our requirement is that in order to receive the CoreCHI performance certification, you first need to provide to us proof that you are certified through RID or BI, and then you can sit for our exam. The good news is that because we recognize the investment both of time but and money that you put into obtaining a certification from another entity, we offer a discount to any interpreter who is certified by another entity and who pursues our certification. But for specifically for ASL interpreters, your fee for the ETOE exam is $150 instead of $229 because you're already certified through RID or BI. The CoreCHI credential will be phased out starting 2025. And between now and 2025, we will review this eligibility requirement for ASL interpreters, and the final recommendations, the final requirements will be in effect in 2025. And the difference, like for spoken languages, is on the CoreCHI certification certificate, you don't have the language listed, and on the CoreCHI-P certificate, you will have the language of ASL listed. And the same thing applies for sign language interpreters as for spoken language interpreters. For the CoreCHI-P, you have to take 2 exams to receive that credential. What happens when I need to renew my credential? Can I have 2 credentials? Let's talk first about the renewal requirements. The renewal requirements for all 3 credentials are the same. Each credential is valid only for 4 years, and to renew it, you can either take the exams again, or you need to provide proof of 40 hours of work experience in healthcare interpreting, and 32 hours of continuing education credits that you obtained during these 4 years. Let's consider this question. If I have the CoreCHI credential that expires in X months, and I take the ETOE exam now, will I still have to renew the CoreCHI credential? Answer is no. Once you pass the ETOE exam, you earn the CoreCHI-P Credential, which is a higher tier. It's a performance certification. And your certification date will be the date of passing the ETOE exam. And your CoreCHI renewal cycle will start on that day. And you will no longer hold the CoreCHI credential. In other words, CoreCHI-P credential, you move higher up and you cancel out the previous credential, it stops to exist for you. Slightly different approach. If I practice 2 CoreCHI languages, let's say Portuguese and Italian, do I need to take any exams twice? And how do I get CoreCHI-P certification for both languages? You need to take each exam only once. For the CoreCHI-P credential, you'll take CoreCHI once, and if you're already a CoreCHI certificate, you did it 2, 3, 4, 6 years ago, and you need to take the ETOE exam only once. But to receive the certificate, you need to provide proof of the language proficiency in these 2 languages if you want to have 2 certificates. once both of these language proficiency verification documents are accepted by CCHI, you'll pay an extra fee, and currently it's $10 to get that second certificate. So let's say right now you registered as a Portuguese interpreter, you take your ETOE exam, you pass, and that's the step when I recommend, if you speak any other languages that are in that, CoreCHI-P path, then you start submitting to us proof of your language proficiency in those additional languages. Now, I'm sure there are many interpreters like that, especially those who speak several Indian languages, or refugees from Afghanistan may speak Dari and Pashto at the same time. So many Arabic speakers speak French. So you will need to, if you want to get the CoreCHI-P certification, you'll need to take the ETOE exam, prove your language proficiency in French, and then you will get the CoreCHI-P certification for French, in addition to your CHI certification in Arabic. That's the path you can take. Another question. My Spanish credential expires in 2024. If I take the ETOE exam now, will this extend my certification? The answer is no. The CHI credential must be renewed on its own cycle. So if you are CHI Spanish, Arabic, Mandarin, you'll have to continue renewing it on that cycle, or you could lapse if you for some reason exit the profession and then come back several years later. But you have, for these bilingual exams, you will have to keep that cycle going. And in the future, we hope to add languages to that, path of bilingual performance testing. If you're CHI Spanish and you took the ETOE exam to get the CoreCHI-P credential, how will you align those? The commissioners will define how these two credentials will align for individuals who would hold these two certifications by around June of this year, because the first time we will issue the CoreCHI-P credential will be in June. That's when the scores are released, and mid-June you will receive the scores after passing the ETOE exam, and by that time we will finalize the renewal alignment for the two certificates. Another question in this section: do CHI certificants, in other words, interpreters of Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish, need to take ETOE exams? And why might they want to? Now, the answer to the first question is no. CHI certificants already hold a performance tier certification credential. They do not need to take the ETOE exam. However, some CHI certificates might want to take the ETOE exam for different reasons. Professional growth, as a voluntary contribution to the profession, because by taking the exam during the first administration, you are helping us to validate it. There may be other personal reasons. For example, if you're a manager of interpreting services and majority of your interpreters are not Spanish, you kind of want to lead by example. Or if you're a trainer and you have students who don't speak Spanish and want to be interpreters of other languages, you may want to know what it feels like to take that exam. So there are many, many reasons that people may want to add that credential, but you don't need to do that. Another question: if I have the CoreCHI credential that expires in X months and I fail the ETOE exam, will I still have the CoreCHI credential? Hey, the answer here is yes. You will still have your CoreCHI credential until it expires. Let's say it expires in December of 2023, and you failed the exam during the first testing window this year. You have it till December, then you can still renew it. You can retake the ETOE exam following the same policy as for the CHI exams. If I have the CoreCHI credential that expires in 2024, can I still renew it in 2024 without taking the ETOE exam? Yes, but let's do the math here. Keep in mind that in 2025, CCHI will announce the phasing out plan for the CoreCHI credential. And that phasing out plan will include X number of months that we will give all CoreCHI holders in 2025 to take the ETOE exam and move up to the CoreCHI Performance Certification credential level. So what that means is that if you renew your CoreCHI credential in 2024, that renewal will be valid for fewer than 4 years because, if you're lucky, you may be right on the border of 4 years. But financially speaking, in this situation, right, you have to pay the renewal fee, and then you'll still have to take the exam, ETOE exam, sooner than in 4 years expires. So it may be just better not to wait till 2024, which is just 10 months from now, and instead take the ETOE exam during this first testing window. And we strongly encourage all CoreCHI certificants to do it as soon as possible. So there could be a situation, let's say your certification, CoreCHI certification, expires on March 15th, right? And you took the ETOE exam on March 14th. You did not renew your certification because you thought, hey, I'm taking the ETOE exam, I'm going to pass it, and I'll get CoreCHI-P credential, and the clock will start again for me. But you got in June the requirements that you failed. So what happens then? We will offer you two paths. One is retake the ETOE exam within the next testing window, because obviously we'll have to give you time regardless, right? You cannot, force you to go backwards and produce CEs for the credential that already expired. So what we'll have to give you an extension, either to renew your credential for another 4 years or retake your exam. And we'll explain it to everybody on a case by, in the same consistent way, but we'll give you the specific dates depending on when your CoreCHI certification expired. But we'll do the extension in a reasonable and equitable manner because ultimately we want you to be certified. If a certificate holds CHI and CoreCHI credential concurrently, would certificates have CoreCHI-P credential for both languages? No, if you, and I think that would apply probably for, let's say, Spanish, Arabic, and Mandarin interpreter. You will have your CHI Mandarin, CHI Spanish, CHI Arabic, then you put comma, and then you put CoreCHI-P, and then we have specific parameters of how you can produce your second language, which will be CoreCHI-P, brackets, Cantonese language proficiency, or French language proficiency, or Portuguese language proficiency, depending on what your CoreCHI-P credential is. So these are two different credentials, and you'll be holding both credentials. And by June of this year, we will have the information on how the renewal of these both credentials will align. How long will the phasing process take place after 2025, specifically for interpreters whose renewal process of 21-25? I wish I could give you more details, but the whole reason is that let me just walk you through the timeline. So we are introducing this credential now in 2023. In order for us to accredit this new exam, the requirements are to have 500 exams administered or be 1 year in existence. So we could apply for accreditation of that exam in 2024. And we will know by the end of 2024 that the exam is accredited, because we don't want to replace the CoreCHI credential that is currently accredited and make it with another credential until that credential is accredited. So once the CoreCHI-P credential is accredited, which we'll know by the end of 2024, then we will have this, path to how long will it take for us to discontinue CoreCHI. We cannot give you 1 month's notice. That's just not fair, right? Because we have testing windows. So most likely the minimum will be 12 months. If you read the CoreCHI credential requirements right now in your candidate's handbook, it says all CoreCHI certificates will be required to take a bilingual exam within 12 months to maintain their certification status and become CHI Portuguese, Russian, Vietnamese. Because we're replacing it with a performance exam, but a different way, monolingual, most likely the same thing will apply, because when we wrote that statement about CoreCHI credential in 2012, 10 years ago, right? We didn't know that we will have this new option of testing interpreters validly via a monolingual format. Now we know this. And so we'll need to, figure out what would be the most equitable and fair way. These are the situations that need to be voted by the Board of Commissioners. And guess what? The current board will not be in place in 2025 because we, have people term out. We only have, limited terms that people serve. I cannot answer for the board that will be in place in 2025. Rather than waiting, I would say take the ETOE exam as soon as possible. Then you wouldn't worry how it is sunset. Now, where do you get information about the ETOE exam? Our virtual office is our website, CCHI-certification.org, and there is everything there. On every page, there is Get Certified, which button, which unfolds into these two options, and you click Start Here. And it takes you to a landing page with many things. You need to go to the preparing page. And there are test content outline and information about the exams. We just added there the ETOE exam specifications and the different specifications for the CoreCHI and CHI exams that come into effect this year. Another way to get the information directly about ETOE exam and how to score it is through our side navigation bar. You click on the menu and you see this options. You click on ETOE and you get directly to the ETOE exam, which explains how many items are on the exam, which order they follow. There are links here to the webinars about the ETOE exam. And then next to it is another tab about how the exam will be scored by raters, what kind of parameters they will apply to assess what grade to give you. How do you prepare for the ETOE exam? We have the online training portal, CCHIinterpreters.org. It's different than the portal where you have your application at and where you pay the fees for exams. So you'll have to create your own account here. It's free account. It's very much simpler, just name and email address and password, but your password for the application account won't work here. So in other words, create your account here and then you can take a free practice exam, ETOE practice exam. And also we just added a recording of the practice session that took place during the new credential launch summit on February 11th. It's also available here. And for this particular webinar, for this online course, you can actually get 1.25 continuing education performance-based hours. About this section, restate the meaning. Just backtrack for a second. There are 7 sections on the exam where you need to do different things in English. And one section is restate the meaning, where you need to listen to an audio, which is a very short, utterance, and then you need to paraphrase it. The question is, how do you know what to paraphrase and what not to paraphrase? The main parameter is accuracy. The ultimate purpose of the whole ETOE exam is to confirm that a certified interpreter understands the concept of accuracy and equivalence of meaning. Moving from there, you need to keep in mind that there would be 2 major pitfalls that you can run into and you need to watch out for. Omitting important information when you are paraphrasing or changing the meaning. And be careful to avoid both. In other words, if there is no accurate synonym to a word in that utterance that you just heard, that an entry-level interpreter would know, then do not paraphrase it. An example I can give is the word migraine, and it's in our ETOE practice exam. Migraine, if we say a headache is not an accurate synonym to migraine from the medical standpoint of view. You could give a definition of migraine if you're a doctor, or if you're a sufferer from migraines, you can explain what migraine is, but we don't expect every entry-level interpreter to know how to accurately define migraine. And for that reason, when we rate that utterance which has the word migraine, we won't count it if you didn't paraphrase it. If you paraphrase it accurately, hey, it'll be correct. But if you didn't, we won't penalize you for that. again, repeating myself, when you are presented with something, you need to paraphrase. Paraphrase only things that you can do safely. In other words, without omitting information or without changing the meaning of the utterance. About the section listening comprehension. In that section, you'll have to listen to a short speech. And by short, I mean it's no longer than 1.5 minutes. And in the ETOE exam description, there is actually on our website, there is a number of words that at maximum could have listed. So you listen to that speech, and then your task is to restate key points of that speech. And the question becomes, what do we mean by key points? You need to approach this task from the point of view of the interpreter. So what is the key information that you just heard that must be conveyed to the patient? Because, it's not a theoretical exam. It's a very practical exam. We're trying to ascertain that you could interpret, right? So what you're listening with an interpreting ear to any speech of a doctor that you then need to interpret, you will be either counting which things the doctor said, right? First he said, get the prescription, then you said, do this, then do that when you prepare for a procedure, right? So you're kind of following logically that speech, and then you are interpreting this. On this particular item, you won't be interpreting, you'll be restating the key points that must be conveyed to the patient. Another way to look at that is what information I cannot omit because it may cause harm to the patient or lead to the patient non-following the treatment, right? So that's what we mean by key points. Key points that you need to convey as an interpreter to the patient. In other words, this is not an exercise in rhetoric. This is an task that is meant to be as a part of your interpreting practice. There's a question about my example that I gave about key points. Let me clarify there. And I hope that you're listening to how I'm describing to it and paying attention to the words, because when I present about our exam, I spent time thinking which words I choose. So the task on that exam is listening comprehension. You're listening to the speech and you're identifying key points, and then you're restating these key points, right? What do we do when we interpret something? We're listening to a speech. We identify units of information. We're prioritizing which units of information are key, and then we make sure that we interpret all key points and all other points to the extent possible. Now, to the extent possible applies usually in the context of simultaneous mode, right? In consecutive mode, we interpret everything, right? In simultaneous mode, regardless of how brilliant you are, you will have to make choices of which bits and units of information you may safely omit because you don't have the time to maintain that mode and be accurate, and which you cannot. So identifying key units of information in a speech is an important task that we do every single time we interpret. Now, did I say that this task is about summarizing anything? No, I'm not asking you to summarize anything. We ask you to identify key points from the perspective of a medical interpreter and restate, which is reformulate, which is doing in English what you would do during interpreting. Now, because I absolutely understand how this seems like a different activity than you usually do. That's why we had a study that we did in 2020 when we compared all these tasks that you're going to see on this exam now to the uh, bilingual performance exam, which included interpreting, and we found that there is a strong correlation between the two. In other words, the tasks that are present on this monolingual exam do reflect the tasks that are needed and cognitive abilities that are needed to do actual bilingual interpreting. Can I take notes at any point of the exam? Now, I truly recommend everybody to read the information about the exam? The answer is yes, because performance exams, both CHI or E2E, are meant to reflect our practice. And when we are interpreting on the job, regardless of which modality we do it in, we have the opportunity to take notes if we want to. That's why on the exam, you have the opportunity, you're given paper and pen. I believe it's pen, and maybe pencil, and you can take it. It's large list folded. You have like totally 4 sheets. My recommendation is, if you have never taken notes, this is not the time to start it on the exam. But if you do take notes during the interpreting, or if you started taking notes when preparing for the exam, definitely take notes, because some items you can play twice. If you miss something the first time, you can have the opportunity to listen to it again, like listening comprehension, for example. And some items you cannot play twice, like memory capacity, shadowing, which is like a simultaneous interpreting. There you can only place this item once, but it's important that you're able to take notes even for those activities. The timeline. The questions is, how long does it take to do things? Now, if you pay the for E2E exam this week, you will get the notice. You will get the notice to schedule next week, and you will have until, I would say, realistically, you should schedule your exam by April 5th, because the sooner you schedule, the sooner you get the date and time that you really like. After April 5th, you can still schedule for April 12th if your test center has seats. And that's what we cannot guarantee, right? Because it's first come, first serve for any testing clients, not just CCHI, but people who test for nursing, for architects, for computer science. We all utilize the same testing center of our vendor, Prometric. So that's why, the sooner you pay the fee, the sooner you should schedule, because you'll get the spot that is more convenient for you. Then you'll take the exam during this testing window, March 14th through April 12th. The next testing window we have not set yet, so we'll announce it sometime in May. Then April, May, we'll be scoring it and doing the standard setting, and then we'll release the scores by mid-June. But the date on your certification will be that date of your exam that you took in March or April. Where can I see the list of testing locations? All right, let me walk you through that. This is the CCHI's website. And as I said, if you go get certified, start here. Here are different tabs, and here is the tab called scheduling. When you go to scheduling, first of all, we have all the testing windows here outlined, right, for different exams. And then how do you have safety procedures, how to schedule, etc. So if you go to how to schedule, there is actually the video on how to do it, but scheduling at the physical test center is done here. And here, when you do go to this link, you find locate, and you would be asked to put in what exam you're planning to take, including the English to English exam. You'll go for this, and then you'll have to put your zip code. That's it. I am going to put Akron, Ohio. That's where close to which I am, and I'm going to put March 14th through end of March. And here are the things that the Akron test center, where it is. Oh, that's actually close to me. Youngstown, Mentor, so all these different locations and the dates and times for which I can schedule. We're not allowed to take water into testing sites, so I assume you will be provided with water inside. Unfortunately, liquids are not allowed inside the testing room. And I can tell you why. It's very simple. How many times you have spilled the liquid on your keyboard? I don't know about you, but I have a couple of times. And our test centers simply cannot allow candidates to spill water on their surfaces. So if you have a medical condition that requires you to take medication with, liquid, then you need to submit ADA accommodation form and a note from your doctor, and then we'll put it as an additional accommodation. If I fail the written exam, how long do I have to wait to take it again? So by written exam, I understand you mean the CoreCHI exam. And the wait period for the CoreCHI exam is 3 months or 90 days. Okay, somebody wants to give me a possible guidance of which exam to take, CCHIs or the other entity. Obviously, I can only talk about our exam, and I can tell you our exam is the best. I'm just, all jokes aside, though, you need to figure out what are the requirements for certification in your state or with your employer, because obviously if you're doing it for that purpose, if you're a freelancer, I would go with the largest and accredited, and that's what CCHI is. CCHI is the only organization whose examinations are accredited, and as I already mentioned, the CoreCHI-P Credential will be accredited, and it will list your certification as certified CoreCHI-Performance with language proficiency proven in Vietnamese, Portuguese, Russian, etc. And we're the largest. We have over 5,000 certified interpreters. That is higher than any other organization. If I speak 3 similar languages, Serbian, Bosnian, I knew that question will come up. Serbian, Bosnian, and Croatian. How many exams and certificates can you get? Can I get? Well, you'll need to take only one exam. But in this particular situation, I think the commissioners will need to make a more informed decision, because you'll need, currently the requirement is if you have 2 languages, like let's say, Ukrainian and Russian, you need to prove your language proficiency in Ukrainian and in Russian, and then you get your 2 certificates after taking 1 exam, right? Now, with Bosnian, Serbian, and Croatian, I'm not sure how you're going to be proving language proficiency. There is language proficiency exam for all 3, right? Like LTI through ACTIFL scale administers 3 exams: Bosnian, Croatian, and Serbian. So if you technically take those 3 exams and submit as proof of that, we'll give you 3 certificates after taking one of our exams. Do you want to go to the trouble to getting all those 3 exams from another entity? That's up to you. And I would again make the decision based on the business sense of which language you would be interpreting most.